Hello and welcome to the first instalment of the Atrium's Textile project for the month of August. I'm Claire, for those who don't know me. This week we're going to do a bit of an introduction to different stitching techniques. You should have everything in your pack, but for this week all you're going to need is some fabric. You can choose which fabric you want, but I would go for a more plain fabric just so you can see what you're doing. And you will need a needle and thread. So before we start, I want to talk a little bit about the exhibition that's going to be held in the Atrium Gallery in December. So anything you create, even if you're just practicing, keep it and we'll put it in the exhibition to show your progression throughout the project. So if you go into your pack, you will have this. It's your sewing guide and it's going to be used for this video, and you can use the techniques that you learned today in the next stages of the project. So the first sewing technique we're going to look at is how to seed stitch, and you'll have all of the instructions written as well if you prefer to follow those. So I'm going to go through with it now. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start by threading the needle and knotting the thread at the end so that it doesn't pass through the fabric. So my piece of fabric that I've chosen is just a piece of felt because I think it's easy for you to see on the camera. I've picked quite a thick piece of thread, again because it's easy to see. And what you might want to do, you might want to take out your needle threader, which just helps you put the thread through the needle, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use it. So it's got a very thin piece of wire on the end, so you thread that through the eye of the needle. And then you're going to take your thread and pop it through this bit here. It's quite easy, it might take you a couple of goes. Ooh. Okay, you're going to pull it through a little bit, and then you're going to pull the entire thing out of your needle. So that took a little bit of getting into the eye of the needle because it is quite thick. So I'm going to pull it through so that it's even on the ends. And then I'm going to tie a knot at the end so that the thread doesn't go through the fabric. So that's step one done. So what we're going to do first is we're going to bring the needle through the fabric from the back so that we don't see the knot. So everything's nice and clean on the fabric. And then next we're going to place the needle back into the fabric, taking it from the front to the back. Okay, so we're going to continue this process and make short stitches, and we're going to face in different directions in a random fashion, and that's how we're going to create the kind of little seeds. Now if we refer back to our sewing guide, it's going to end up looking a little bit like this, so that's the kind of technique we're looking for. So again, I'm just going to go from the back and back through. I'm going to do this a few times until you kind of get the gist of what the seed stitch is. So you can make the threads as big or as little as you like. There's no rules, it's all your own creativity. So if you keep all of these little experiments and how you're developing your sewing skills, they'll be really nice to put in the gallery if we sort of put them side by side and and then on your final pieces later on, you'll see how much you've progressed. I'm going to expand this a little bit more. This just might be a nice pattern that you want to use when you go on to make your tote bag or your pencil case, which we'll be doing in the 4th session. So there you have it, that's my version of a seed stitch. So I'd really like to see your work as well, so if you want to send some pictures over to Catherine on the Archery Facebook page or email them over, and that'd be really good so I can see how everyone's getting on. And of course we've got our live sessions as well. I'm available on Thursday evening from 6 till 8 if anyone's got any questions, so please get in touch if you're not sure of anything so I can clarify. So the next one that we're going to move on to is cross stitch. This should also be in your sewing guide. So we're going to need again fabric, a needle and thread. So we're going to start again by threading our needle. Let's see if I can do this a bit better this time. So we pop the needle thread through. Thread on, and then we pull it out. I'm going to tie a knot at the end of it again. What I like to do is I like to make the thread double and tie a knot there, but then you end up with a really thick thread. So if you want a thinner thread, just tie a knot on one end and just make sure that this end comes through as well. So just like the seed stitch, we're going to start off by bringing the needle through the back of the fabric. But this time it isn't going to be random. So I'm going to pull it through and we're going to make a diagonal line. See, so there we go. And it's going to look like a cross because it's a cross stitch. So just like you would draw a cross, you would find the point where your other line is going to cross over, and we're going to pop it through the back again. But just be careful of where you're putting it. So it's like a nice even cross. I'm going to choose about there. And then we're going to take it all the way over to make our first cross. And there we go. And now we're going to repeat this, but we're going to go in so that the crosses join together. So I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to find where this one is going through from the back. So it's around about there. Pull that through and I'm going to repeat the process. So I'm going to go back in. I think it's easier once you've got your first one down because then you can use the last one that you did as a guide. and then completing your diagonal line to make a second cross. I'm choosing to go on the bottom left hand one. Well, it's left hand for me, I don't know what it is for you, but with the camera being all back to front. So there we have it. That is how it's cross stitch, and if you wanted to make a cross that wasn't joint on, you can just pick any random part of your fabric and come back through the back of it. You might opt to use a thinner thread. I'm just doing this for the camera so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. It might be a bit hard for you to see quite a thin bit of thread. Back through, and then once again we're going to make the diagonal line going the opposite way to create a cross. So there we go. That is cross stitching. So on the next page there is a running stitch. This is the next one we're going to do. So the materials again that you'll need are needle and thread and a piece of fabric. So again we're going to go through and thread the needle. I'm sure you're getting used to this by now. So we've tied our knot in the end of the thread, everything's ready to go. We're going to start again by popping the needle through the back of the fabric so that we don't see the knot. And then we're going to place the needle back into the fabric. So it's called a running stitch, and it literally makes kind of dashes, and it's quite common. You'll see this on most clothes. So we're going to come back through, but we're leaving that gap. So it makes a dashed line. So you can see I've just changed direction there by placing the needle in the back of the fabric again in the desired place. Putting the needle in, and I'm going to turn the piece of fabric around, bring it back up as I change the corner, and put it back in again. I think this looks quite simple. All the way around, why not? And there you have our running stitch. And remember, you can use long and short stitch lines combined to create different effects and styles. So you might want to use, just for an example, you might want to make quite a long stitch line followed by a short one, and that could be followed by another long one. Just to create a different kind of effect. And what you want to do as well, that I should have mentioned, is you have to tie off the end of your string or thread. So what I like to do is I go back in just a tiny bit so that you can't really tell. So that create like a loop at the back. You can probably see that a bit better. And I go back through. Put my needle through the loop. I'm running out of thread here, but you get the gist. And that will tie a nice knot in the back, and you can cut off your thread. And everything's nice and secure. So there we have our running stitch. So the fourth stitching technique that we're going to learn is the back stitch, and you're going to get a bit of an effect like this, so that if you remember in our stitch that we did previous, it was kind of like dashes, but this time there's not going to be any spaces between the stitching. So again, you're going to need your fabric, your needle and your thread. So I'm going to quickly thread this again. So we've got our knot tied in the end, And we're going to start off just the same as the running stitch. We're going to go in through the back, and then we're going to go back through the front, and then we're going to go through the back again, creating a dash. But here is the part what we do a little bit differently. We're going to take the needle and pop it back through, if you can see where I've just stitched. Pull that through, and then there's no gap. So I'll show you that again. So we're currently at the back, the threads through the back, so we're going to bring it through to the front, creating a dash, and then we're going to fill that gap by popping the needle back through of the previous stitch. So you can use longer and shorter stitches as well to create curves and different kinds of shapes with this technique. So I think I'm going to make a bit of a curve and then continue in the opposite way. So I'm going to shorten the stitches. You can also do lettering with this technique. Some kind of curved edge. And follow on back down. And there we have a back stitch. So the final technique that we're going to learn is how to do a French knot. And again, we're going to need our fabric, needle and thread. And I've already threaded the needle and tied a knot in the end. So firstly what we're going to do, like we've done on all of the techniques, is go through the back, so that our knot is at the back. pull it all through. And then we're going, I think it's going to be a bit difficult to show on camera, but I'll try my best to show you. If not, if you can't see, then there's the tutorial pack that's going to go out with you as well, with the photographs, step by step. So we're going to hold the thread like this, very gently, don't hold it too tight, just give it a bit of looseness. And we're going to wrap the thread around the needle 3 times. And then we're going to pop the needle back in and pull it through very gently. And this will create a knot. And this technique would be lovely if you wanted to do some little multicoloured miniature flowers or something in your embroidery. So I'm going to show you that again. All the way through. Put your finger underneath the thread. This is the easiest way that I've found to do it. Pop the thread under. Wrap it around 3 times. It's quite tricky, but you will get the hang of it. And then pop it back in. Pull gently. And there's another knot. So again, go in through the back. Pull it through. Hold your thread. Wrap it around 3 times. Try that again. And back through. We should have another nice knot. What you can try, if you get that technique down and you want to make your knots a little bigger, all you have to do is the same thing, pull it through, but instead of wrapping it 3 times, you can wrap it 4, 5, 6 times, and your knot will be a bit bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't look that much bigger on camera, but it's got a bit more height to it. So I'm going to continue doing a few more of these so you can see how the technique's done. So there we have our French knots. So there we have it, we've got our seed stitch, cross stitch, our running stitch, back stitch and French knot. Just have fun with it, have a little experiment, see what you can do. If you have any questions, I'm available on Thursday evening, 6 till 8, through the Art Room Facebook page. I'd really like to see your work, so if you can take some pictures and send them over to Catherine, and she'll let me know what everyone's been up to. I've had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you've had fun watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Next week we're going to be doing some work on embroidery, so we'll be looking at different embroidery techniques. So everyone have a lovely week, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.